I just ended my relationship with Desmond after 3 years together. This is still raw, but I need to get it off my chest. When I first met Desmond, I was blown away. He was charming, funny, and had this way of making me feel like the most important person in any room. Everyone loved him. He was the life of every party, always knew the right thing to say, and could talk his way into or out of anything. I should have seen that last part as a warning sign. The first time Desmond directly asked me to lie for him was about 8 months into our relationship. He'd forgotten to submit some important paperwork for a work deadline and was going to get in trouble with his boss. He called me in a panic. "Babe, I need a huge favor. If my boss calls, can you tell him I had a family emergency and had to rush you to the hospital? Just this once." I remember feeling uncomfortable, but also wanting to help him. He sounded desperate, and I told myself this was what partners do for each other. So I agreed. His boss never called, but Desmond was so grateful, telling me I'd saved him. But looking back, that wasn't actually the first lie. I'd already been covering for him in smaller ways. When we first started dating, Desmond would often be late to meet my friends. Not just 5 minutes late, like 45 minutes or more. I'd make excuses for him. Traffic is terrible, or he got held up at work. I was embarrassed to admit he just didn't prioritize being on time, or when he'd forget to pay his half of the rent, which happened at least once every couple months. I'd cover for him with our landlord and then try to get the money back from him later. Then there was the time he borrowed his buddy Laszlo's expensive headphones and broke them. Instead of owning up to it, he asked me to text Laszlo saying I had accidentally sat on them. I did it because Desmond claimed Laszlo had anger issues and would totally overreact if he knew Desmond broke them. I even paid for half the replacement cost because Desmond was short on cash that week. It was a $300 pair of headphones, and I ended up covering $150 for something I didn't even do. But the pattern really escalated after that work incident. Suddenly, my phone was ringing all the time with requests. Call his mom and say we can't make Sunday dinner because I'm not feeling well, when really he wanted to watch the game with his friends. Cover for him when he called in sick to work, when he was actually hungover. Make excuses to his sister Petra about why he missed her art show opening. It got to the point where Desmond's problems became my problems to solve. I was always sending the awkward texts, making the uncomfortable calls, and smoothing things over with people he'd upset. His sister once told me, "You're so good for him. He's never been this reliable before." Little did she know, he wasn't reliable at all. I was just covering for his unreliability. I remember a particularly bad night 6 months ago. We were at a friend's birthday dinner, and Desmond had way too much to drink. He got into an argument with the waiter about the bill and was being loud and embarrassing. He insisted they'd overcharged us for a bottle of wine when I could clearly see they hadn't. On the way home, he threw up in the Uber. Guess who apologized profusely to the driver and paid the cleaning fee? Me. The next morning, Desmond barely remembered what happened. When I tried to talk to him about it, he just said, "That's why you're the best girlfriend ever. You always take care of everything." He didn't even offer to pay me back for the cleaning fee, and after a few days, I stopped asking because it was easier than dealing with his excuses. It hit me then that he wasn't seeing these as favors anymore. He expected me to clean up his messes. He'd created this dynamic where I was the responsible one who fixed everything, and he was the fun one who did whatever he wanted. I started calculating how much time and money I'd spent cleaning up his messes. The $150 Uber fee, the $150 for Laszlo's headphones, the countless times I'd covered his portion of rent or utilities just until payday. The birthday gifts I'd bought for his family members because he forgot and didn't want to show up empty-handed. The apology flowers I'd sent to his friend Sonora after he bailed on helping her move. It was hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars over the years. But even worse was the emotional toll. The constant anxiety, the embarrassment, the erosion of my own integrity. So I started pulling back. The next time he asked me to lie to his boss about why he missed a meeting, I said no. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "What do you mean, no? It's just a quick call. I don't feel comfortable lying anymore." "It's not a big deal. You've done it before." "That doesn't mean I should keep doing it." He got mad, saying I was being dramatic and that this was what couples did for each other. But when I asked him for examples of times he'd covered for me, he couldn't come up with anything substantial. The best he could offer was, "Remember when I told everyone you made that amazing pasta dish when it was actually from the store?" As if taking credit for my cooking was somehow equivalent to the dozens of times I'd bailed him out. Over the next few weeks, I continued refusing to make his excuses. When he missed a deadline for his fantasy football league payment and wanted me to tell his friend Bryce that I had accidentally deleted his reminder text, I refused. When he wanted me to call his dentist and reschedule his appointment for the 3rd time using my name so they wouldn't know it was him avoiding them, I refused. The more I refused, the more agitated Desmond became. He accused me of changing and not being supportive. He started making his own excuses, which often involved throwing me under the bus. Suddenly, he was late because I took too long to get ready. He missed payments because I had asked him to buy something expensive. I realized that without me as his willing scapegoat, I was becoming his unwilling one. The breaking point came last week. Desmond lost his credit card while we were out with friends at a bar. Instead of calling to cancel it right away, he ignored the situation, saying he probably just left it at home. 2 days later, he discovered someone had racked up over $5,000 in charges at electronic stores and online gaming sites. When he called the credit card company, they asked when he noticed the card was missing. Instead of admitting his negligence, he put me on the phone and whispered for me to say we only realized it was stolen that morning. I refused. This wasn't a white lie to get out of dinner with his parents. This was credit card fraud. He could get in serious trouble, and he wanted me to be his accomplice. The credit card company would investigate, might ask for a police report, and there I'd be, on record, lying about something serious. "After everything I've done for you, you can't do this one thing," he snapped. In that moment, something clicked. What exactly had he done for me? I'd been carrying us financially whenever he was short on cash. I'd been the one maintaining his relationships with friends and family when he couldn't be bothered. I'd been protecting his reputation while sacrificing my own integrity. For 3 years, I thought we were partners. But we weren't. I was his safety net, his cleanup crew, his alibi. And the moment I stopped being useful in that way, he had nothing positive to say about our relationship. That night, I packed a bag and went to stay with my sister. Desmond's been blowing up my phone with messages alternating between anger, "You're overreacting about one little favor," and desperation, "I need you. Please come back. I don't know what to do without you." TBH, the hardest part has been explaining to our friends why I left. Some of them think I'm being harsh because they've only ever seen the version of Desmond that I helped create. They don't know about the constant lying and covering up. They don't know how exhausting it is to be responsible for two people's lives. My friend Cassia confronted me last weekend, saying I was being cold for cutting him off so suddenly. "He's absolutely devastated," she told me. "He said he made one mistake and you just left." I almost laughed. One mistake? Try hundreds. But I realized Desmond was still controlling the narrative, still lying, and for the first time, I had no interest in protecting him from the consequences. "It wasn't one mistake," I told her, and gave her a condensed version of the pattern. By the end of our conversation, she was apologizing to me for believing him. "That actually explains a lot," she admitted. "He's been asking me for money this week, saying you took all the cash when you left. I hadn't taken a dime that wasn't mine. IDK if Desmond will ever change. Maybe he'll find someone else willing to be his personal PR manager. But I'm done pretending his problems aren't his problems." Yesterday, I went back to our apartment to get more of my stuff. Desmond was there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The place was a mess. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, takeout containers everywhere, clothes strewn about. In just 1 week without me, his true habits had surfaced. He asked if we could talk, and against my better judgment, I agreed. "I've been thinking about what you said," he told me, "and I realize I've been taking advantage of you. I promise I'll change. I've already started by calling my credit card company back and telling them the truth." For a split second, I felt that familiar pull, the desire to believe him, to fix this, to go back to how things were. But then I thought about how much lighter I've felt this past week, how much mental energy I've reclaimed by not having to anticipate and solve his problems, how much more clearly I could think without the constant background noise of his impending crises. "I think you might change someday," I told him, "but not for me, and not right now. This isn't something you can fix with one phone call or 1 week of good behavior." "But I love you," he said, his voice breaking. "Doesn't that count for anything?" "Love isn't supposed to be transactional," I replied. "It's not, I love you, so you have to fix my problems. It should be, I love you, so I want to be the best version of myself with you." As I was leaving with my boxes, he called after me. "What am I supposed to do without you?" And for the first time, I gave him the honest answer he needed to hear. "Figure it out yourself." "I'm staying with my sister while I look for a new place. It's hard and I miss him sometimes, but I also feel like I can finally breathe. I don't have to carry the weight of two people's choices anymore. Yesterday, I got a call from his mother asking why I wasn't coming to Sunday dinner. When I explained we'd broken up, she sounded genuinely shocked. But he said you were just busy with work this week. Even now, he's still lying, still expecting others to maintain his pretenses. If you're reading this and it sounds familiar, please know you're not your partner's keeper or their parent. There's a difference between supporting someone through tough times and enabling them to avoid consequences. It took me 3 years to learn that difference. Update. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To answer some common questions. No, we didn't share finances officially, but I did end up covering a lot of expenses when he was short, which was often. I'm financially okay. I've always managed my money carefully, which is partly why I kept bailing him out. Several people asked if there were red flags early on. Looking back, yes, lots of them. He would make small promises he'd never keep. He'd often have misunderstandings with friends that somehow always ended with them apologizing to him. And to the person who asked if I'm worried about what Desmond might say about me now that I'm not managing his image, yes, a little. but I'm finding that the truth is pretty good armor. I'm not perfect, but I don't need to lie about who I am. Thank you all for helping me feel less alone in this.